I am a poet, me, sitting way up high, preaching in rhyme on my poetry, hoping that somebody will walk by and notice me, because I know the words that I say will find a person to save. With each verse I relay, they will serve to relate, giving comfort to another through the power of poetry. And yes, poetry is powerful. Hello, everybody. It's absolutely amazing to be here. Yes, my name is Drew Cal. Thank you so much for introducing me, Tracy, and thanks for having me, Angela. So yeah, where did it start? I'm just going to tell you my story, all about living with OCD, type 1 diabetes, and why I'm a spoken word poet. And hopefully I'm going to weave some spoken word poetry throughout. So I started writing rhymes when I was about 11 years old. I was inspired by hip-hop artists, mainly from the US. I love Eminem and Tupac and 50 Cent. I love clever lyricism, storytelling, and wordplay. Absolutely love it. I'm not really a fan of music with no meaning. I really feel like music has to have meaning, has to say something powerful. So I started just to write. But by 12, 13 years old, it very quickly became a positive coping mechanism, a self-therapy. So I began to experience horrifying, intrusive thoughts, which were linked to my ethics, morals, values, and things that I love and people that I love. They were extremely difficult to live with, to deal with on a daily basis. They were constant, relentless, and it was really, really, really challenging as a young man and not being able to talk about it because I was afraid of stigma. I was afraid people would think I was crazy. So my brain told my hand told the pen, and I was able to articulate what was going on in my mind through the power of poetry, the power of the pen, the superpower of words. Now, I think it's really important for me just to break down what OCD actually is really quick. So yeah, obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. What does that mean? Basically, I get an intrusive thought, and I feel this hydraulic press of responsibility on my shoulders to prevent it from happening. As I said, it's linked to things that I love, my morals, my values, which is why it's so difficult for me to just get on with my day. Now, what I do to sort of prevent that from happening is perform compulsions repetitively over and over again. So numbers are linked to my OCD. So I've got different intrusive thoughts for different numbers. So I'd have to finish a compulsion on a certain number to feel, right, okay, that thing's not going to happen now. It sounds completely irrational. Even I know it's irrational. But uncertainty plays a vicious role in OCD. It's like this super-glued, manipulative grip on the brain. And it's like, but if you don't do that 20 times, what if that horrible thing is going to happen? So when I was younger, my mum, my rock, still is my rock to this day. But yeah, I grew up with a single mum, got a great relationship with my dad, but evidently it was my mum who brought me and my siblings up. And we lived on a housing association. We didn't have a huge amount of money. So if anything happened to my mum, that would have just destroyed my world. So at 12 years old, my initial intrusive thought was my mum's going to die in a car crash and it's all my fault. So every single day, in my head, was preventing my mum's death by performing compulsions over and over again, and constantly worried if I did it 2 enough times. Did I do it well enough? So it was extremely challenging. I cannot tell you how debilitating obsessive compulsive disorder really is. It's horrendous. So I like to try and break down the stigma. There's also loads of different subtypes of OCD. One that you're probably familiar with, which is hygiene OCD. So let me really quickly break down hygiene OCD. So I knew somebody when I was going through therapy with hygiene OCD during COVID. They had an unwell mother, and they were just obviously petrified of their mum passing away. So OCD linked to that. Remember, it links to things that you love. So I remember her compulsion was she had to sit in the bath for 3 hours, and if she didn't sit in there for exactly 3 hours, even if she got out a second, at 2 hours 59, she would have to repeat the process all again and sit in the bath for 3 hours. And while she's sitting in the bath for 3 hours, she's trying to just stay still, even intrusive thoughts are coming in, she's just literally frozen because all she has to do is just stay in that bath because she doesn't want her mum to die. That's what hygiene OCD actually is. It's not just cleaning your hands because you like things clean. There's usually an intrusive thought or something linked to it. So I like to break it down like that because hygiene OCD is the one that everybody stigmatizes. Okay, so moving on. By 14 years old, I began drinking cans of beer down the park with my mates, and we've got serotonin in our bellies, right? So every time I would have, a bit of a drink, some alcohol, that serotonin in our bellies, gave me like a buzz, and I was like, I feel like a bit of a relief. It's taking the edge off. So then I started to drink more, and I started to drink more and more. And 16 years old, I started youth rugby. Youth rugby has a huge, huge binge drink culture. And remember, I've got OCD at this time, been living with it for 4 or 5 years. I started to open up to my mum, and that's about it. I didn't really tell anybody else about it. So yeah, the alcohol very quickly became a negative coping mechanism. And I used to abuse it and binge. And basically, it just made me want to fight my own head. It made me say, no, I'm not going to do that compulsion. I'm just not going to do it. And throughout my life, throughout my late teens and early adulthood, I got into a bit of trouble because of that. But yeah, it was this extra relief. To cut a very long story short, I got to 21 years old. So I'd been living with OCD pretty much for 10 years now. Really trying my best to pull through, but it was getting worse and worse. OCD adapts and it changes as well as you grow up, so I started to experience a lot of different, very difficult subtypes, and I was at my wit's end. I was literally at rock bottom. At the time, I'd opened up to my now fiancé, and that's about it. I still hadn't really told anybody about it, and I remember going out and I got really, really drunk, and we were meant to go to my nephew's christening in North Wales the next day, and I was worried because my mum was going to drive us, and I was worried, I don't want my mum to die in a car crash. I don't want my mum to die in a car crash. And then I was, I got really, really drunk, and I also had another intrusive thought, which I'm not going to tell you about, but I'm just trying to paint the picture. And I decided I just can't do this anymore. My brain is just full all the time of me trying to save people's lives, and it was just horrendous. So I saw a taxi, and I perfectly timed it. I walked into the middle of the road, and I smashed on the bonnet. I smashed the windscreen. I smashed my face on the floor, and I laid in the middle of the road, and all I did hear was silence. Now, of course, I wouldn't wish anybody to get to rock bottom and do that to hear silence, but that's the level that OCD pushed me to because of the stigma, because I was afraid to talk about my intrusive thoughts. That's what I felt like I needed to do. I didn't want anything to end, but I just wanted to hear silence. So I got rushed to the hospital. Luckily, I was so drunk I just bounced off the car, which was nice. I had a bit of a bruise on my face, but I finally spoke to a psychologist. I always forget between the two. And I went on a 10-week OCD group therapy course. And knowledge is power. Knowledge is power in anything, but especially mental health and especially physical health. The more I understood about OCD, was the better I was at managing it. And yeah, and it really, really helped me. So I'm going to do a little poem now, which sums up that part of my story. I'm going to grab this microphone, if that's good. Yes. So poetry was there for me for 10 years. That's the power of poetry. I was 12, 13 years old. Took me to 21. So yeah, nine, nearly 10 years. That is the power of creativity. And this poem hopefully sums up that story. I've scribbled bad thoughts in my notebook. From a young age, I've been feeling broken. Look, I'm riddled with disorder. Everybody thinks OCD is order. That I label things A to Z color-coded, but I'm overloaded mentally with daily torture. You see, it stops at C because he's a beast. The beauty in my mind's deceased is anxiety, trauma, being a bad thought, hoarder, and it's back again, so I turn to the drink, it becomes my water. And that's a turn of phrase as I open up the tinny, OCD squirms in rage. But when will I learn temporary fixes? It ain't worth the pain. It opens up a can of worms. I try to wriggle out the riddles, but I'm dazed. I need some support to fight, see. Should I go Martin or Malcolm? Can you tell me, Spike Lee? Maybe Black Panther's the answer. I drink vibranium to fix my cranium. Chadwick, rest in high peace. Mum gave me some of her black magic. Said, listen, son. Never lose yourself. Mental health will appear like a hat rabbit. Bad habit. I don't need to feel like Harry. I will solve Tom Riddle. Not attack. Stab it with my pen. Because you could cut me open. I bleed ink. Mine's been broken. I needed to rethink. I'm married to the pen. The ring binds to the page. Because poetry and rhyme saved my life. Pen is sharper than a blade. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. So yes, the first pen that saved my life. I like the color purple. First pen. I'll introduce you to the second pen that saved my life in a minute. So yeah, that was really helpful. 21 years old, finally got cognitive behavioral therapy and exposure response prevention therapy while writing my rhymes and still, unfortunately, drinking alcohol. Got to 23 years old, me and my partner went to Thailand and Bali. It was an amazing, really cool experience. In Bali, we stayed in a place called Ubud, which is the monkey forest. And I like to eat, so we were hungry, so we went into a restaurant. I ordered a surf and turf. I picked up a shrimp, I put it in my mouth, and it tasted horrendous, so I spat it out. The next week or so, I started to feel a little bit ill. I've had sunstroke before. I was like, oh, Duke, man, you need to look after yourself. You know, you're on this amazing holiday. Don't get sunstroke. So I was trying to drink water and have paracetamols while still drinking some beer to enjoy myself. But yeah, I started to get really, really ill. On the flight home, my head just began to really, really pound. From the drive home from London to Cardiff, my head was just pounding more and more, and I was living with my mum at the time. I was taking tablets, and I was just sweating all the time, thinking this sunstroke is horrendous. I was about 2 days at home, and my mum said, Duke, you really, really should go and see a doctor. I was like, oh yeah, I should probably listen to my mum. She's wise. So I went to my local GP, and they took one look at my temperature. They sent me straight to the infectious disease unit in UHW, and basically I had salmonella, and they were like really intrigued what salmonella I had. There's like loads of doctors around me, like, you know, with their clipboards, like, oh, this is an interesting case. And I was like, my head's banging. But yeah, I had salmonella type 2 Java. It's from the Indonesian region, Java or something or other. But because I'd had it for quite a long time, it got into my blood, so I had sepsis. And it was really difficult. The worst headache I've ever had in my life. That was pretty much my main symptom. I was just turned my head, it was boom, boom, you know, lost a bit of weight and things like that. But what happened after my antibiotics, I had 6 weeks of antibiotics, and then a very slow transition into some of these symptoms. So the first symptom was lethargy. I was 23 at the time. I was working, I was a personal trainer, and I was studying in uni, and I was doing grounds maintenance and landscape gardening work. This is before anybody knew I wrote poetry, by the way. And I was just shattered all the time, and I was like, oh, well, this must be adulthood. And it turns out, so for about a year, I was really lethargic, and I did a urine test. So I didn't know this at the time. You're not meant to have any sugar in your urine, and they found sugar in my urine. And then loads and loads of symptoms just hit me all at once. I remember it in January, and I had the typical dry mouth. Any liquid that would touch my lips, I couldn't help but completely drink the drink. I was losing loads of weight and going to the toilet a lot. And yeah, I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So type 1 diabetes was triggered from the salmonella. So this is the other pen that saved my life. It's my insulin pen. 2 pens that saved my life. But again, you know, it was difficult to begin with. Like any new diagnosis, I inject probably like 13 times a day. I have to inject insulin, otherwise I will die. That's literally what type 1 diabetes is. My pancreas has given up. But what happened next, I didn't anticipate. So remember I said OCD is about numbers. Let me just see if I can do this. There's numbers here. See the numbers? Probably not, it's a bit too, yeah, anyway. There's numbers, I promise. So when I would inject insulin, I'd sometimes think I was injecting this intrusive thought into my body, and then I was like full of like an intrusive thought, which was horrendous. So I would take the pen out and I would just stab myself probably up to 20 times because that was my compulsion, that was my relief. Sometimes I'd inject too little. If you inject too little, your blood goes too high, which isn't good. Sometimes I'd inject too much because I didn't like the number. If you inject too much, you've got to really run around the house and eat some carbohydrate, otherwise you go too low. That's also very dangerous. So yeah, it was a conflict between OCD and type 1 diabetes, and it was really challenging. But again, what helped me get through this was writing about it, was being able to articulate my emotions through the power of the pen, through the power of poetry. So I ended up writing, I self-published my first poetry collection called Bittersweet, the highs, the lows, the hypers and hypos of living with type 1 diabetes. Very long title. And I did that to celebrate 100 years since the discovery of insulin, which was in 2020, I believe. So there's a little poem that I'd like to share with you. It's called Bittersweet. They say when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Bitter, sweet. I think about this lemon phrase as I penetrate just below my belly button, waist height. The needle thin pierces into my skin. I self-medicate insulin so I do not waste away from DKA. Most days my mellow brain interrogates my pancreas. Why are you refusing to do your duty? Answer me. My hands are up. An understanding I may never gain, but to be alive in this life within 100 years since insulin was developed, hey, what are the chances? If I was going to get T1D, I guess it's good I got it now. I mean, it's easier to treat. Bitter, sweet. Thank you. So yeah, the power of the pen, the power of poetry, it's amazing. And I've been really fortunate enough to work with some fantastic organizations. I showed the world I did poetry when I was 25 after a trip to Zambia, which I don't have enough time to tell you about, but it was amazing. And yeah, I've been doing this full-time for 4 years now. I'm 31 now. And it's the best thing I've ever done is actually finally sharing with the world my story about OCD and the way that I use poetry. And now I love to encourage others to do the same. Human beings are naturally creative. There's probably people in this room who are like, oh, I'm not creative. No, I'm not creative. I promise you, you are creative. You might not think it, but creativity comes in lots of different ways, from art, from sculpture, from writing poetry to anything. And I think, yeah, it is a superpower of ours. It really is. I think creativity is genuinely a superpower. The last thing I'd like to perform is a poem called Perfect. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I like to fight the stigma anywhere I go, especially with OCD and type 1 diabetes. And perfection is something that I've battled with both conditions. So OCD, I've battled with perfection because it's not what you think. It's actually, when I was really struggling, I couldn't do something good for myself unless it felt on the perfect day. Because if I had an intrusive thought on the Sunday, I felt like maybe the Monday is going to be bad, so maybe I should start on the Tuesday. It was a relentless cycle of never, ever doing anything good for myself. And self-punishment became a compulsion. I would purposely eat bad, I would purposely drink, and I would purposely not go to the gym or look after myself. And then perfection with type 1 diabetes is our blood glucose levels should be between 4 and 7. Above 7, it's too high. It's called hyperglycemia. And below 4, 3.5, it's called hypoglycemia. Both have their challenges, so it's trying to keep it balanced. So I wrote this poem called Perfect, which I'd like to share with you. And me writing this poem was like a nice release. It was a relief. Again, the power of creativity. Perfect. Trying to be perfect is like running on a glass bridge with metal spikes, walking on a frozen lake with no ice, tiptoeing on a tightrope from a high height. Trying to be perfect is like a relentless fight, shadow boxing against my mind. I've boxed up doubt. I fear if I let it out, I will live in the shadow of me, myself. It's complicated, this fight against my health. Trying to be perfect is on the edge of failure. On the edge of failure is self-punishment. On the edge of self-punishment is self-destruction. On the edge of self-destruction is imperfection. A cycle of nothing but stress. Nothing but putting pressure on myself to only feel worth less. But is being perfect worth stress? Tormenting thoughts. I'm in a continuous war. With no warning they spawn. I try to ignore them, they take a new form. I sit and I draw up all the conclusions if the thought actually forms. I'm having withdrawals. Compulsions I mourn. I'm battered, I yawn. I'm shattered, I'm worn. Bags live under my eyes. It's as if somebody is gripping, somebody is ripping my stomach. My body is torn. I grip my teeth. I cannot be beside myself, because that means I'll be the shadow, and then OCD's won. I need to inject, but the numbers are wrong. How can I go on? Do I inject too little, too many? Neglect, nothing's perfect. I'm gone. Obsession, injection, compulsion, injection, bad number, rejection, bad number, rejection, obsession, rejection, compulsion, perfection. I'm testing, I'm checking. Is it between the 4 and the 7? Bad number, rejection, bad number, rejection, bad number, neglect, bad number, eject, high blood, forget, bad thought, upset, bad head, feel dead, no tears are shed. I'm numb, imperfect, I'm numb, imperfect, I'm numb, imperfect. Wait a minute. What did I say? What if I made the word appear different, a slightly different shape? Then my perspective might change. Put an apostrophe in between the I and the M and then just add a space. What does it say? I'm perfect in my own imperfect way. This gift, do I deserve it? To use my rhymes to articulate how my body, my brain, my heart feels. God gave me this gift as my escape. When I write things down, my endorphins are doing cartwheels. It is the powerful way in which I communicate. Maybe God gave me this gift to also help others. Maybe I needed to have suffered to pick up the pen and empty bad thoughts from my brain so others relate and it soothes their pain, because I'm obsessed with words. I'm blessed, not cursed. These conditions are my test on earth. OCD, all the checks I merged. Too complete, when I'm wrecked I turn to T1D. All the checks I merged. Too complete, a relentless surge of energy, but through stress I've learned to accept my terms. I've not had a rest since birth, but I won't rest until I'm dead in the dirt. Forget these nerves. I'm going to work on myself as I set my goals and write these notes before I'm ghost. I'm going to be the best person I can be. Forget perfection. I'm just going to be the best version of me. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So yeah, the power of the pen, the power of poetry, the superpower of words. I encourage you all to pick up the pen and give it a go. I just want to leave you with this. The pen really is a sword. Rearrange the letters, and it's a weapon of words. Thank you very much.